Well, let's move on now to our special exclusive interview with the Minister for Women and Child Welfare, Maneka Gandhi, speaking to us about harassment, about rape, about juvenile justice, about that Nirbhay juvenile, and about cow slaughter and a range of other issues. A special exclusive interview with Maneka Gandhi that I did earlier in the day. Well, it's a great pleasure and privilege to have with us Maneka Gandhi, the Minister for Women and Child Development and Welfare. And that's particularly so because I think this is probably the first TV interview you've done. It is?
I think so.
Okay, well, it's great to have you with us. One of the occasions that we've just been seeing is we went out and we're doing this What's Your Choice to see whether people would intervene in cases of harassment. They did in the cases that we saw. But obviously the harassment of girls is something that still continues on our streets and is something to worry about.
Well, the harassment of girls on the street, of course, but it starts right from harassment of girls when they're in the womb. So you have about 2,000 girls a day who are killed in the womb every day. And some that are born and sort of have pillows on their faces, choking them. So I think it all starts there, which is why one of the first programs we took up was a program called Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. But the Beti Bachao part, we took it up in February. And it's very simple. We've taken 100 districts where you have less than 900 girls per 1,000 boys, which is not a natural statistic. But what were we trying to do? We just laid down simple parameters. One, you should have institutional deliveries. You can't bear children anymore at home. And two, people who, you can't have young marriages anymore. I mean, even though that's illegal, it's been going on, but now you have a system of informers. The DC himself is taken to task if something like that happens.
So it's like one scheme which then covers the entire gamut of things.
Yes. But what has been so exciting about it is, like you said, when people intervened, we didn't expect results at all to show for at least a year, 2 years, if at all. So it was one of those mindset change things. But what we did do was we're getting the most bizarre results. And the result is that hundreds of girl children are being thrown into orphanages in these 100 districts. Now, I was in Amritsar and the DC told me
is that good or bad that they're going to orphanages?
That's what I'm trying to, wait, I'm just trying to say that he said they've received 89 girls this month. Now, I thought that was a weird statistic in his Palna, which is in the DC's office. And I was in Tamil Nadu a week later, and they said the same thing, that in all the districts that we've chosen there and gone, you know, full out, they've got a lot of girls coming into Palnas. Now, why is it bad? Because obviously the girls are being thrown out. But why is it good? Because they passed from the stage of being killed to being thrown out.
But that perhaps links up with something else that I know you've been pushing for, which is to have easier adoption, because that might be a solution. If you have, and right now adoption is really, really difficult and really complicated.
And tell me about it.
You agree with that? And how can that be simplified?
No, I have simplified it. I have simplified it hugely. In fact, those 89 girls were adopted in 1 month. That's simple. But yes, we have an institution called CARA, and they had a 1-point program for about 15 years, which is that if you could adopt a child, then obviously something was wrong. So they made it even more difficult. So finally they reached a virtual zero. And at this point, I then got the ministry. And now we've had a large number of adoptions because it's much, much simpler. But what I'm waiting for is for the Juvenile Justice Act to pass Parliament. Because the minute that passes, then we have two things coming in. One is that all orphanages will have to register themselves with us. At the moment, there's a parallel economy in orphanages coming along, which is very dangerous because then people just take children and sell them for money. The second is that suppose a child is not adopted and he's 6 or 7 or 8 years old. Then I want to start foster care in India. You can take a child into your home, you don't have to adopt them. We will get you vetted and we will have monthly checks or, you know, checks at random to see that you don't...
There could be abuse, no?
Of course. But the point is the system exists everywhere in the world.
Okay.
So why shouldn't it exist in India? We have, say, 50,000 children that are not adoptable by people who want cute little babies. So what will happen to them? Why should they hang about in orphanages where they're really badly treated?
Are you hopeful that that JJ Act will go through sometime in the near future?
Well, it was the first act that this government brought into Parliament. And then it sort of went from Parliament into a select committee. Now it's come back and it's gone back to Cabinet. Tomorrow there's a GOM, a group of minister meeting on it. And if it passes Cabinet, it should come in this session.
Well, one of the reasons why a lot of us are really looking at that act also is because of juvenile justice, and especially after the rape that took place in Delhi, the Nirbhaya incident, and the fact that there was a juvenile who raped that girl, probably was responsible for her death, and is now, any day now, presumably going to walk free.
I'll tell you about that case. When I got the ministry, and this was the first act that came, I designed the entire act. Now, India is literally divided into, say, a 60-40. 60% of people say, hang them at 16, just kill them. And 40% said, well, children are children, so let them do what they want. So what we've done is we've taken a mean line, right through the middle. And what we've said is that if a 16-year-old commits a heinous crime, then he goes before the Juvenile Justice Board. And the board then decides whether he did it in a childish frame of mind or an adult frame of mind. And if he did it in a childish frame of mind, he goes to the children's reformatories. And if he did an adult form, with an adult frame of mind, he goes to a Bostel, which is the children's part of an adult penal center. And there again he'll be checked at 21. Has he reformed? And if he hasn't, he'll go straight through. So
he'll stay in prison.
He'll stay in prison if he has.
So in a case like this, where somebody is, he's obviously committed a rape, he brutalized
but I want to come.
the girl.
No, I want to come back to that.
It wasn't a childish act.
No, you'll be surprised. Before I even set about making this act, I was very confused. I was new to this field, and I didn't want to make any mistakes out of any arrogance. So I talked to the judges who'd passed this, who'd convicted them and had given him life as a child. And I asked them why they did it, because he was the worst of the lot. He's the one who put the bottles and did the cutting and and they said that he wasn't actually going to do anything. The rest were adults, and they kept saying to this boy that chalo mard bano aur itna hi aage chalo. And so he did it in a childish frame of mind, technically, only to impress those adults who were standing there. I mean, not that they did anything, because the law is such that they can't do a thing. Even if they couldn't put him into an adult penal system even if they wanted. But the point is, had the choice come to the JJ, this boy who did this awful, terrible thing would probably still have been treated as having done it with a childish mind, because he did do it. So I'm just saying it's a very grey area. And it's psychologists who sit on the JJ Act, on the board, who should decide rather than hang him or let him free.
India's got a reputation, and I know this happens in every country of the world, but a reputation for being one of the rape capitals of the world. And again, it may not be entirely justified, because the rape happens in all countries. But especially cities like Delhi, they're considered really unsafe. What do you think we can do to crack this?
Well, firstly, the epithet, the sort of thing about as a rape capital is not correct, because in all the countries of the world, we're amongst the 10 lowest, as a matter of fact.
Per capita.
But as a nation. Secondly, what is so strange, what I find is that everybody in America, for instance, you have a rape, not that we should be comparing, a rape is a rape, and even one is too much. But in America, I think the press is just bored with it, because it happens all the time. So they don't write about it anymore. For India, it's new. We've been at it only for 2 years. It's Nirbhaya that actually kicked it off.
You mean the reporting of rape is more new here, so you think more attention is coming on it here?
Absolutely, as it should. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing.
But women do say that they feel more unsafe here on the streets of Delhi than you do elsewhere. I mean, you would be scared at, grope, things like that. Far more, in Indian cities than perhaps elsewhere.
No, I'm sure that's true. I'm just saying statistically, we're nowhere near the top. But however, that doesn't mean that we don't have terrible rapes, molestations, stalking, and other horrible things happening to us. How does one deal with it? I think 2 or 3 ways. One is, from the time I became minister, the first thing I did was to ask for 33% of all women, of all police forces to have women. And I'm happy to say that it took me 6 or 8 months for government to respond. And now all the UTs have been ordered to have 33% women. Gujarat has got 33% women, and we're going to try and get all the BJP states to agree to 33%. So once you have women there, you feel safer at reporting, and a rapist or a potential rapist feels less empowered. You know, rape is not about sex, as is a cliche, but it's true. It's about power. So if he feels less empowered, he's unlikely to risk life and limb if he knows that 33% of women in every station. So the second is one-stop crisis centers. Now, a woman who reports a rape or molestation or husband beating or stalking or any form of violence or perceived violence on her person has to go to the police station, who will probably be vulgar and mean to her. After which she then has to find a lawyer who will take her for every last penny she's got. Then she has to tramp up and down to court. That's so awful. So women, then just swallow their, anger.
Yeah. There's often said that they are violated a second time, when they sometimes go to the courts.
And a third time in court, and a fourth time with the police, and a fifth time with the time.
But there's something else which has been coming. Some of the men have been saying that if you look at the new Anti-Dowry Act and things like that, they're saying it's too skewed in the other direction. Okay, even the Anti-Rape and the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, there are some people who say these are prone to a lot of abuse, and sometimes women are not going to get employment because it's so loaded in a sense in one way. Is that a danger you see? Have these laws gone too far?
Let's just presume that they're misused. After all, the SC/ST Act is the most misused of all acts in India, because all you have to do is to employ somebody, make him make a fake case, and it's usually used by people who have land problems.
Right.
So let's just presume that this act is misused. The point is, what other weapon do women have? Is there anything else? Does the National Commission for Women work? No. I've asked for it to get the same powers as the Human Rights Commission, and it's lying in cabinet. But as of now, it doesn't work. Do the police work? No. Do you have any other laws in your favor? No. Do you have any political parties that overtly support you? No.
Some of them overtly go against you, but that still doesn't preclude the possibility that if a law is subject to misuse, then sometimes it can go against a women's interests. If sexual harassment
let's presume that 10% is misused. Have you removed the SC/ST Act, which 95% is misused? And they have 500 other things going for them. They have a commission, they have every political party, they're protected. Right. But what do women have?
I wanted to jump to another thing which is close to your heart, which is animals' rights, obviously, and there's a lot we can talk about that. But specifically in recent times, there's been a lot of attention on the entire question of cow slaughter and other slaughter and other animals. Of course, it's not as if the conditions of our abattoirs are particularly hygienic or healthy in any case. Just wanted to get your take on it. Do you think the entire all slaughter should be banned? Or
I'm saying that cow slaughter and buffalo slaughter should be banned, and the reason for that is an economic one.
Across the entire country?
Hopefully. And the reason for that is, A, 90% of it is already illegal. 2, the law says you can kill them after they're a certain age, 16, 14. All the ones that are being killed now, because we stop them at night, are either pregnant or milking cows.